Hello, everyone, and welcome in to CrushTheStreet.com. I'm Kenneth Amaduri, and I'm joined today with Trace Mayer, the man in the Bitcoin community, flying all around the world, a mover and shaker, really, in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and he's funded core infrastructure technologies, and he's working on a daily basis building out this incredible technology. He hosts the Bitcoin Knowledge podcast, and Trace, let's get right into it. How you doing today, sir?
Oh, doing wonderful. How can I not be? Bitcoin's hits $800 on the Chinese exchanges, so it's at the highest nominal price in the last 34 months or so.
It is crazy because when you compare it to gold, gold's been struggling with dollar strength, but here we have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is doing well. So yeah, let's talk about that. Why are we seeing such strength in Bitcoin? And I know you've been extremely bullish on Bitcoin, and you've even talked about it going as high as $1 million or more here. So, let's get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it was about 6 months ago. I did an interview, I think both with you and another one with Jeff Berwick, and put a $3,000 price out there for this current bull up leg in terms of like kind of the upper ceiling, right? And here we are, we're up another probably 50-70% since that call, and we see no signs of this bull market even retreating much. I like to filter out all the daily noise, so if we look at the 200-day moving average, we're now at $9.7 billion market cap for the 200-day moving average of Bitcoin. And that's important to keep in mind because we've had the block reward decrease. It's gone from 50 to 25 to now 12.5. That means that our current inflation rate's about 4.9%. And that's, all but 20 currencies in the world have a higher inflation rate. And if we look at the 200-day moving average of the market cap, previous all-time high was $8 billion. And this was when Bitcoin hit its $1,200 a Bitcoin. So we're nearly 20% above the previous 200-day moving average all-time high market cap. And Bitcoin showing no sign of losing any type of steam or anything. If anything, it's actually picking up steam. And if we look at the rate of change of that 200-day moving average, it was about 0.7% per day back that previous run, and this time it's about 0.22% per day. So of course, it takes a lot higher moves to move the needle on this larger market cap, but we're showing a strength of nearly 33% in terms of the daily rate of change of the 200-day moving average. And when you're moving from 100 million market cap to an 8 to a 9 billion market cap, that's to keep up a really high rate of change like that, especially on the 200-day moving average. It just shows incredible strength.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so for all the pundits out there who think Bitcoin is going away, that's some pretty clear evidence of the momentum it truly has.
Oh, huge momentum. Pundits, like, by all means, show me the other side of the argument, but we're looking at massive volumes. We're looking at this has a $10 billion market cap, but its trading volumes are, at least on the actual recorded exchanges that are public, it's trading like a large cap stock in terms of daily volumes. And that's not taking into account all the transaction purchases that are done, all the people that are earning money every day. Like these are exchanges that are happening off exchange, cash for Bitcoin, gold for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is highly liquid, lots of volume. And that means that we're getting price discovery, accurate price discovery, especially because there's cash delivery on the market, right? You have to deliver the Bitcoins. There's none of this paper gold Bitcoin stuff. When that happens, the exchange goes bankrupt and it's gone. But this is just huge underlying strength, and it's kind of a stealth bull market when you think about it, because our all-time market cap high of 20%. Nobody's talking about Bitcoin being at an all-time high, but it's at a massive all-time high in terms of market cap, especially on the 200-day moving average.
Wow. Well, big news as of lately, aside from the Bitcoin price, is the possible solution to the blockchain crisis, which is a software update called SegWit, which reached 30% of Bitcoin nodes so far, waiting to be activated. Trace, could you explain what this is and the process of adoption?
Yeah, so we have Bitcoin Core, which is the oldest, the longest, the most trusted, the most secure software when you're running a full node, which is what you do to have network consensus, and then you parse the blockchain yourself, and that's where you get economic consensus. So you really want to have both of these. Bitcoin Core is by far the best when it comes to network consensus, and really there's no one else out there, because all the dream team programmers work on Bitcoin Core, because that's where all the action's at. And so in Bitcoin Core, they've rolled out SegWit, and this came from Dr. Peter Woola, who's one of our all-star programmers. He's kind of like our Scottie Pippen or our Michael Jordan of the basketball team. And what Segregated Witness does, it doesn't increase the block size limit. The block size limit stays at 1 megabyte. But what it does is it takes the witness data. So these are the digital signatures, and it takes them out of the block and just puts a small amount of data in its place. And so the effect that has is that you're able to get about 2 to 4 megabytes of equivalent transaction data into each block. So it's not that you have a larger block, it's that you use the block more efficiently that you have. And the net effect is that, you get basically a block size increase effect. People are able to do more transactions. But that's kind of the little part of SegWit that I personally get excited about. What I'm really excited about is that it fixes a problem called transaction mailability, along with some other stuff that it does. And the combined effect of all of these features and fixes that SegWit rolls out is that it's going to make Bitcoin incredibly more useful. We'll be able to do a lot more things with it from the programmatic aspect, and that's going to make Bitcoin just that much more useful and valuable.
So any potential consequences if it's not adopted, a price drop, or solutions to if it's not adopted?
If it's not adopted, it's just going to be code that doesn't get taken up by the network, so it won't harm Bitcoin in any way. There really are just so many benefits to it. That's one of the reasons I think we're seeing it getting updated and adopted by nodes at a very fast pace, a faster pace than lots of other previous soft forks. Because this is a soft fork, not a hard fork, so it's safer to do in general for the network. It's got a year to be adopted in terms of the code that is currently implemented, that would currently implement it. And if it's not adopted within a year, then I guess we go back and revisit whether we put another year-long expiration on it or something like that. But it just has so many benefits. It changes. You get linear scaling of signature hash operations instead of quadratic scaling. So this it makes it so much more efficient to store the blockchain and use these things. You get help with signing of input values. You get pay-to-script hash, increased security. You get you reduce UTXO growth. There are just so many reasons for the network as a whole and the Bitcoin community as a whole to really get behind and rally behind Segregated Witness that I think we're going to see uptake on it pretty quickly.
Trace,
and we're already at like 30%.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Trace, let's talk about the Winklevoss Bitcoin ETF. And this is interesting for investors here. There's been a trickle of updates, but what is the latest on this? And is it ever going to come to fruition, or is it just being blocked because it's so anti-establishment?
I think the regulators are just being extremely cautious. Let's make an ETF with magic internet money. That sounds like a great idea. What could possibly go wrong? But no, I think they're just being cautious. We've seen quite a bit of the underlying infrastructure being done to lay the groundwork for it. For example, I was talking with some of the guys from Terra Exchange. This was before they launched, so I was talking with them a couple of years ago. They're a swap execution facility for derivatives on Bitcoin, and one of the big problems that the regulators had was, how do we actually get a price for Bitcoin? Because we can get a price for gold very easily. LBMA, right? We can get a price for silver and platinum, but and rhodium. But how do we get a price for Bitcoin? And that was the big problem that they had. And we saw in about a month ago, the CME has come out with creating an index for the Bitcoin price, and they pull price data from Kraken, which is the exchange I'm invested in, and a lot of other of the reputable exchanges. And so, after we have the CME putting their stamp on a Bitcoin price, and that goes, and goes on for a couple months, then I think the regulators are going to be able to be like, okay, look, we've got a reputable institution that's feeding a Bitcoin price. We can move into having an ETF product. And remember, we still have the GBTC a trust that's trading out there. So there is a financial instrument for trading it, and we are seeing the premiums to NAV on that actually begin shrinking. So I think it's starting to price in the probability that an ETF approval might happen. Now, in terms of the ETF, there are actually two ETFs out there. One is SolidX's ETF, and that's going to be listed on the NYSE, and then you've got the Winklevoss ETF that's going to be listed on BATS. And the SolidX ETF, their deadline for rebuttals is December 7th, and then the next thing on the calendar is going to be a possible deadline for the Winklevoss ETF decision, and that's January 10th, and then a possible decision on the SolidX ETF decision on January 29th. So we got, the regulators can move in January, or they can issue another 60-day extension, which I could see them probably issuing another 60-day extension just to get another 2 months of CME price data out there. But both of these ETFs are gonna have a big impact, and I think it's also good for the regulators to have two different ETF products competing in the market out there. And then then investors kind of get to do their due diligence and, can go with one or the other or both.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Trace, what country in the world is seeing the biggest Bitcoin growth now? And I'm curious, because of all the problems we're seeing in the monetary system, where is the growth happening?
Whew, that is an excellent question. I don't even think I have any idea on how to answer that, and I'm pretty well connected in the space. When I was down in Buenos Aires last month at the Latin American Bitcoin Conference, we had about 70% of the mining power there represented. So we had lots of Chinese, we had lots of people from the U.S., we had lots of people from Latin America, we had quite a few people from Europe. Bitfury was there, for example. So I got to really talk with a lot of people, and it's growing everywhere.
Wow.
Like a weed. It's growing crazy. For example, 2 years ago when I was at the Latin American Bitcoin Conference 2 years ago in Rio, I met with a startup. They had 2 employees, a ragtag website, a complete a real startup operation. When I met, I ran into them down there last month. They had over 50 employees. they're doing intra-South American remittances. They got a money transmission license equivalent out of Peru. They're operating in 9 countries currently. They're going to be in 13 countries by the end of the year, including China. And so what you're able to do is you're able to buy Bitcoins with Venezuelan bolivars or Argentine pesos or Peruvian soles, etc. You buy the Bitcoins with that, then you sell the Bitcoins for the equivalent fiat and withdraw it to your bank account. Well, there's $300 billion of intra-South American remittances that happen, and they're prevented from, because of the stupid laws, they're prevented from buying bolivars and selling Argentine pesos. So you have to use Bitcoin as this intermediary. Well, what that does is it means that they have to create an order book and an exchange, and then they're opening up the yuan also, and there's a ton of cross-border payments that are done, because if you want to wire Brazilian reals to China, which then get stuck in China because you can't take them out, which the Chinese don't want, you have to go through the central bank and get approval for every single wire transfer, and it usually takes 45 days. Or you can sell reals, buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, buy yuan. Boom, you're done. You've paid your supplier, you've paid your importer, you've imported the computer products, you paid the exporter, and you're using Bitcoin as the pipes, and so that's what's happening. Like, it's getting uptake all over the world, and we're seeing a lot of global trade beginning to use these pipes. Chinese shipping stuff to Brazilians or to Chileans. We're seeing, it's growing all over the place, and a lot of this volume doesn't show up on the actual exchanges either.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So we have a ton of growth that's going on. I look at website traffic and everything. Just the Spanish speaking pages and stuff, the traffic's up 300% year over year. So we're obviously seeing huge growth in Latin America. That might be the fastest growing area, but only because it took a little bit longer to get uptake down there. But we're seeing significant growth just all over the world. Volumes are up all over the world. Number of exchanges are up. It's really phenomenal, like what's going on in terms of the fundamentals of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Wow. What about China? Are they still in control of much of the Bitcoin mining? And are there any new trends in the mining space? Yeah,
that's an excellent question. So, yes, they're almost all the mining is still going on over there. Bitfury's coming out with a new chip and everything. There's also massive interest from the Chinese government officials. They're attending conferences every week. They're very interested in blockchain and financial technology and all of this stuff. So we're seeing the Chinese move into the space at a rapid rate, and then the yuan keeps having to devalue a little bit here and there, and every time it does, the Bitcoin price goes up. So,
in dollars, or just in against the yuan.
Both. So the yuan goes down relative to the dollar, and Bitcoin goes up relative to the dollar. So it goes up, even more relative to the yuan.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so I don't know exactly, correlation's not causation, but we do know that the Chinese are using Bitcoin as a pipe to move capital. And they got trillions of dollars of bad debt. They have nothing to invest in. There's a massive real estate bubble that has to pop. They don't know where to hide, move and hide all the money. They're trying to do it through mergers and acquisitions, but now the Chinese Communist Party is trying to crack down on that. You got billionaire Chinese families that are super interested in Bitcoin. One of them just created a $20 million investment fund to invest in Bitcoin startups. So, obviously they're holding some Bitcoin, you would think. So, it's just, it's like all systems are go.
Wow.
right now, which is super exciting.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
We had a 2 year, we had a almost 3 year bear market and consolidation. We weeded out a lot of the hot money, a lot of the speculators. Everybody had their heads down, nose to the grindstone. They had to really cut back, tighten the belt, run lean in order to survive. The companies that did survive, they're coming out of this just smelling like a rose. My companies, BitPay and Kraken, the numbers they're turning in right now are just great. I could hardly be happier. So, and with the price going up, we're going to see whole new waves of companies getting invested in too.
Wow. Trace, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard the story about the IRS getting ahead of, getting the go-ahead from a federal judge to seek Coinbase user data. What are your thoughts on this? The IRS, again, trying to get involved and get in the middle of Bitcoin, the government.
Yeah, one is like, well, what are they even doing? Like, most of the years that they're seeking data for, the Bitcoin price went down. So, if people bought Bitcoin and then they used it for something, they probably had a loss. so
wow.
And if they didn't claim the loss and the IRS finds it, like, what are they going to do? Tell them like, oh, we need to send you a refund check. Kind of ironic, but so yeah, it makes me kind of wonder, like, what's the IRS doing? It's also a John Doe summons, so they're asking for all user data, which is like millions of people. So that seems extremely overly broad and just like a fishing expedition. Coinbase has said that they're going to fight it in court. How much is how, like, to what end, right? They're and you look at the 2013 they won 2013, 2014, and 2015. Well, if Coinbase starts fighting this in court, 2013, well, the 3-year statute of limitations is going to toll. So, like, I don't know how the IRS is, like, what are they going to try and do to, like, I don't know what they're trying to get at, And then the other, because, most of the people are going to have losses because the Bitcoin price was going down for the years that the statute of limitations doesn't hit on. Maybe they're trying to just, like, see what the overall usage pattern is with Bitcoin, like, see what, like, how people use it, because Coinbase has lots of merchant data, and I guess, like, oh, well, Bitcoin's an easy picking to get all this, like, user data and stuff. The problem is that, now that they've filed this, like, all the Bitcoiners are, they're already paranoid as can be, wearing their tinfoil hats, and so now they're just going to upgrade their reactions to this, and that means that they're going to not use Coinbase as much, and they're not going to use the AML KYC approved exchanges and stuff as much.
Sure.
And so, like, it's just an example of how Bitcoin is anti-fragile and resilient. It's going to drive behavior that I think the IRS might not necessarily have wanted to drive. But for me personally, I don't really care, because, like, I've tried my best to account properly for any gains and losses that I've had, and appropriately, like, pay all the taxes that are due. I'm a fairly public figure, so I kind of have to do that. So it's but for your average Bitcoin user, I don't know I just don't understand, like, what the IRS is really trying to accomplish.
Right.
It just seems like they're going to spend a lot of time and effort, and what they probably should do is just try to go in and talk with some of the companies and users and just try and figure out, like, what a feasible way of figuring out how to tax would be,
Right. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to go about doing that, but I do like that what Bitcoin offers, and obviously we've talked about it before, the anonymity, and it gives people that option to, separate themselves from the establishment fiat money and the problems that go along with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the SegWit argument, and what SegWit's going to bring, this IRS news just creates even more public pressure to bring SegWit out, because with SegWit we're going to be able to do things like Merkleized abstract syntax trees or masked. We're going to be able to do Schnorr signatures and other forms of signature aggregation. We might even be able to get things like confidential transactions, coin join, coin swap, all of these things that, right now Bitcoin is very transparent and it's very easy to track like where the Bitcoins went and who did what. But, you start bringing in the IRS and threatening people with a tax club, and guess what happens? Like all of a sudden we have these technological solutions that make it cheaper to also make it more private. So why would people right now you can see the Bitcoin economy. Why do you want to give a further incentive to make the economy go dark?
Yeah.
Right? From a technical perspective.
Yeah.
Like encrypting the blockchain as a whole. Like, and it's going to be cheaper, right? Because we're going to be paying less fees. So not only is it going to go dark and be encrypted, but it's also you're also going to be financially incentivized to do that. And so the IRS coming out with this John Doe summons, all that, because they're targeting every single Bitcoin user, right? They're not targeting a specific Bitcoiner, they're targeting all of the Bitcoin users. So that's very problematic.
Well, and that's why people love Bitcoin. It's above what people can try to control. Let's talk about
and kind of on that point, like let's keep in mind what is like the intellectual horsepower that's in Bitcoin, right? I mean, you take all the legends who have built the internet, okay?
Right.
You take all the legends, they're working on Bitcoin full time. I mean, these are guys like Adam Back. He's cited in the Tor white paper and the Bitcoin white paper. He worked with David Chaum he was the mentor to David Chaum, who came out with anonymous digital cash, right? Bram Cohen, who created BitTorrent, totally eviscerated the music and movie industries.
Right.
He's working on Bitcoin full time. You bring all these legends in here, and then it's like, well, guess what they want to work on? And then you throw gasoline on the fire, giving them all the public argument and sentiment to work on this stuff. I mean, it's really kind of crazy, because what do they want to do? They want to solve the really tough problem. What's the really tough problem? Totally anonymous, censorship-resistant digital cash that's that's programmable.
Wow. Well, Trace,
why give them all the incentive to do that, and all the Bitcoin community and the incentive to back them in doing that?
Trace, in conclusion here, what is the biggest development hurdle Bitcoin needs to overcome here in 2017 to move to the next stage?
Biggest development hurdle, I would say, what I would like to see, I'd like to see SegWit get activated. I'd like to see confidential transactions, coin join, coin swap, Schnorr signatures get released and implemented. And I would like to see Bitcoin go dark. I would like to see Bitcoin become encrypted, so that all these AML, KYC startups basically, because all the investors in those companies lose their investment, and Bitcoin goes dark. And then we have no idea what's going on fundamentally with Bitcoin, and it just begins corrosively eating away at all the other legitimate, quote unquote legitimate, worldwide visible economies. and that way we can make it much more expensive to stay in those economies.
Yeah.
And that will further incentivize the economic producers to move into the Bitcoin economy, which will hopefully bring our Bitcoin price up.
That's incredible, and I love it. I love its attack on the socialistic, communistic, these powers that just want to control everybody. I love how Bitcoin is just such a free market and allows for that, and for people to have the freedom that we've been inherently given. So Trace, any final words of wisdom you want to give the audience, and of course, let everyone know where they can reach out to you or just learn more about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say if you haven't started using Bitcoin or figured out how to send and receive some coins, I mean, at least get some technological literacy. You cannot afford to be a technological illiterate and ignorant in this information age. I mean, just figure out how to use it. That way you at least have the option to use it if you want to, because having more choices makes you more wealthy than having less choices. In terms of learning about the space and everything, I interview all the top people in Bitcoin on my Bitcoin knowledge www.bitcoin.kn. That's a great place people can learn more, get in touch with me, stuff like that. And as always, it's been wonderful talking with you on Crush the Street.
Trace, thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure we'll be doing an update here in the near future. And hey, man, $3,000 Bitcoin, here it comes. So.
Yeah, or $100 billion market cap.
All right, man, you take care.
Okay, see.